7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Live from the Rob Christensen Radio Network Satellite Studio, it's Jim and Rob Overanalyze the Movies. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Jim and Rob Overanalyze Movies, the live video podcast where we like to go above and beyond the review to get into the story, meaning, and craft of the films we watch today. And today we are going to be looking at Netflix's latest gangster action flick, genre flick, Kate. But before that, I want to, we got a treat for you tonight. I want to welcome an old friend, somebody I can't believe I haven't had on the show before. She was, you know what? I'll have her explain, but she was like my movie spouse. She's been a theater geek since forever, produced her own fringe plays. Let's give a warm digital hand to my very good friend, Catharine Johansson. Did you enjoy that, Catharine?
A warm digital hand.
A warm digital hand.
That's good. Yeah.
I really only captured like the tiniest bit, but could you tell everyone maybe what, tell us about yourself, Catharine.
Well, Rob and I have seen, I don't know how many movies we've seen together, like probably hundreds, because we used to go at least twice a month, like sometimes once a week, sometimes twice a week.
We might have even went and saw a movie and then saw another movie to cleanse our palate.
Yeah,
one movie
definitely.
was such a bummer.
Absolutely. Definitely has happened. Yes, for sure. Yeah. So
what other than this movie, what have you seen lately, Catharine?
Oh, well, I haven't been to the theater I had not been for, I guess, a year and a half or so since COVID. Of course. And then a few weeks ago, I decided, okay, I think I'm gonna go. And there's a theater. It's probably like 5 minutes from my house. So Cineplex. So what I did, I was either going to go see, Free Guy, or the Aretha Franklin movie. So I was checking, how many seats were taken in the theater. And so it was a Friday afternoon. And so there was no one signed up for the Aretha Franklin show. Respect. So I'm like, I waited until 45 minutes before it started. And I'm like, okay, that's the one I'm going to. So I bought the first ticket. I went, there were 4 people in the theater. It was fantastic, like in different space.
Quadrants? Yeah,
different quadrants, like far enough away that I felt okay taking my mask off to eat some popcorn. Mm-hmm. And and I'm not, we need 2 hours to discuss Respect and Aretha Franklin and that one.
Oh, okay.
Anyway, have you seen it yet?
I have not. It's like you're setting up another show, another guest appearance.
I loved it, but part of it, if it was one I had seen, if I had been seeing movies like every week in the theater, it wouldn't be one of my favorites. But because it was my first one back after COVID and there were only 4 people, I felt completely safe. I thought it was fantastic, although I had like many comments about weirdness about it and decisions that they made. Anyway,
I'm already intrigued. Okay. Just for folks who are wondering, my co-host Jim, he is actually at a play his daughter is starring in, which is why he couldn't make it tonight. But I'm really looking forward to bringing this up with Jim and having the 3 of us talk about it, because this I am engaged. I am seized of this issue. Okay, Catherine, I have another thing I wanted to bring up before we actually get into the meat of the show. I know I sent you the tweet or the link to the article, but I still have steam. Oh, look at this. You know what? You got a welcome from the chat. From, without a doubt, Catherine, the hardest working man on the YouTube film beat, Sean Jackson from Lost in the Rail. Good to see you, Sean. Oh, we got a few more. All right. Now they're all coming in. Of course, somebody you know, Katie, Richard L. from Winnipeg, from our back in the day. Good to see you, Richard L. And I'm sure Katie's somewhere around, so good to see you too. And, oh, there we go.
Missed the cue. Okay.
It's all, you'll pick it up. It'll all work out. Yeah. Anyway, thanks very much for the welcome. Where was I? Yes, something that I'm still both appalled by and entertained by. And that is this. For folks who haven't seen it, there was a deadline. There was this Deadline Hollywood, of course, had this news story, an update. Usher, Priyanka Chopra Jonas, one of the Jonas Brothers' spouses, Julian Huff, I believe that's how you pronounce her last name, are going to be part of a TV show called The Activist. It's a reality series. Think Survivor, except for social justice warriors or whatever the hell the right wing's calling them. It is actually, here are the millionaires who will be judging and helping activists. But here's the gag. The Activist spotlights individuals who've made it their life's work to change the world for the better, as well as the incredible and often challenging work they do on the ground in their communities. This is not a quote, "This is not a reality show to trivialize activism. On the contrary, Catherine, on the contrary.
They want to help.
Our aim is to support activists everywhere. You know, subject to due consideration for the producers and network.
As long as they're interesting.
Yeah. Show the ingenuity and dedication they put in their work and amplify their causes to an even wider audience. Catherine, what's your take on that?
Well, I mean, capitalists are going to capitalize, right? Like that's what they do. If there's profit to be made, it's like, how can we, like, this is just the next step. It's like there's so many takes here, right? So one is, I think about, like, just as
give us all the takes, Catherine.
Oh my God. Just as you're reading it, I was thinking, of course, about the We Charity scandal and how that had been, it became a spectacle. Mm-hmm. And so you have this charity, charity with that racking up, charity started as a charity, racking up millions of dollars of real estate in downtown Toronto. And it really became
that's a show. A charity
it became a spectacle, and that was basically also exploiting child labor. And shout out to Canada Land's White Savior podcast, which I think the last in the series drops tomorrow, which is fantastic. Definitely listen to it. But the other thing is, there is something to be said about activists having to appeal to people, and sort of the left wingers, not just rather than lecturing people. Appealing to people's lizard brains, right? So it's not always we think we can reason with people. We think that humans respond to logic.
I have let that go long ago, but continue.
All the science proves that humans are not logical, and they do not respond to logic, and that's not how you get through to people. Yep. And yet, so many of us I still try to reason you think reason will get through to people. And it's like, no, that's not how you reach people. So in a sense, it makes like activists, if they want to affect change, they do need to use these tools. They do need to be able to appeal to people, so it's sort of like there is that part of it. And then on the other hand, like, this is just gross.
I agree with you. And I think there is, like, for myself, part of what fascinates me about this, as much as my first reaction was, this is fucking gross. My second reaction was, wow, but you got to hand it to capitalism and there is nothing they won't commodify. Or not say there's nothing that capital cannot commodify. It's part of the system, it's a feature, not a bug of the system. And although some of the players involved are, get your head out of your ass, Usher, you're not doing anything good. You're getting a fee. And I don't care what he announced after, if he announced anything. I didn't care to follow through. I don't care if this thing it does its damnedest to be legitimate. But there is an opportunity for analysis, because the emotional response from let's say a progressive or left wing or even a Marxist thing is, look at them having to dance to get anything good done. This is what's fucking wrong. There's a narrative, like an educational narrative, a political narrative that I think is quite compelling in that, here, it's Survivor for charities. There is an opportunity there. And you're absolutely right. Like, it's really just kind of getting a lot of the crap out of the way. Before, they had to dance for grant giving organizations, mostly the government, with forms and that. But as that money's dried up, foundations, corporations with sponsorship, all these folks were supposed to take up the slack. Of course, they never did. The slack, and all these things that we should just be doing. This is now like, well, this is just the next level. But yeah, I do agree with you as far as getting people to, and telling an activist, don't participate in this is really, or let's say telling a charity not to. Like, different kinds of activism, right? Like, I mean, these are really charities. They're looking for government funding to provide a service. They're social workers. Yeah. And there's an analysis there, I think.
There's not going to be anything revolutionary, right? Like, it's just going to, like, no, it's going to be, like, oh, we're helping people, right? So
yeah, but the United Way, that would be another, which is fine. Things still have to be done before the revolution shows up.
Yeah.
How long have we been in late capitalism?
Well,
since the 40s?
This is the thing. It's like, people still have to eat. It's like, well, food banks are not structurally helpful, and, but people are hungry. So what are you going to do?
Things have to be done.
So, yeah.
But I do think, there is an opportunity, an entertaining opportunity, to critique this disgusting thing, and at least call out some of the players. Like, Live Nation is involved in this. When did we fucking think Ticketmaster was a great operation? Into the 100%.
Oh my God.
And I think it's more just to call bullshit on this without, and you're absolutely right, Catherine, something I didn't think of until you mentioned it. Not that I was big on picking on the activist in general. It was more the whole idea, right? But I'm sure there's a lot on the left or so-called progressives who are picking on anyone who participate. And it's like, well, what are you doing to raise money? Oh, right. Fuck all.
And what do you have to do to raise money anyway, right? Like, in direct mail, you need pieces that speak to people, that pull on the heartstrings, that can get through to the most number of people. Grant writing, like you said, right? Like, how do you get?
You need grants? That boiler room to pick up the phone.
Yeah, like activists already have to do this. So
yeah, I do think it maybe not really within the scope of our show, but this is this is like kind of that Omaze scam that's kind of running through YouTube right now. You see a lot of, we're being sponsored by Omaze, Omaze, and there'll be some fabulous prize if you participate in their thing. It's basically just the YouTube version of what used to be the $100 hospital foundation ticket. Get this big house, only limited number of tickets, like any other scammy raffle.
Yep.
And Omaze, it's all charities you've never heard of, because of course, the Cancer Society, why would we give you 50%? Fuck you. It's like it'll definitely blow up eventually. It's like, why do they have 3 chartered jets? 3 private jets. But anyway, okay. Well, thanks for your take on that. Your analysis. You're less. Geez, Catherine, I didn't even get a chance to. I don't know. I'm a little disappointed. Not once was able to go. Hot take. Not one hot take in there, Catherine. Anyway, okay. Where the heck was I? Sean did make a comment here. I love the idea of promoting important activism, but this sounds like rich people exploiting it. And you would be right, sir. And I do not like that. Now here's now I'm thinking of the old man and it's like, Robert, we all serve capital.
Wake up.
Well, not so much a wake up, but it does. I remember, like, it's only years later that you start to get it, and you kind of go, we're all bound in the same operation. No one gets to check out unless they really are wandering in the woods off grid.
Yeah.
Like, we were talking about it in the green room before. None of us are truly independent unless we're fucking billionaires.
Yeah.
And fuck those guys. All right. That bit of the politics out of the way. Let's on to the movie and more politics.
Yeah. So what did you think?
Well, let me, what I'll do now is I'll take over the screen. I'm going to set the film up, go through the social nutrition checklist, and then we'll get into it. All right. Speaking of which, how do I take over that? Here we are. So, folks, I think I mentioned this before. We are talking about Kate. Let me get my nonsense together here. Yes, Kate. Here's a bit of context for you before we actually get into the nuts and bolts of it. Interesting fact, 97% of the Japanese population is made up of ethnic Japanese. And yeah, there are ethnicities within that one label. I'm not saying everyone's identical. It's just much like China is not all Han Chinese. That said, young foreigners may be 10% of young workers in Tokyo. That said, Mary Elizabeth Winstead is 5'8", which is an inch taller than the average man in Japan, and a white woman. So, of course, it occurred to me, what a great cover to be an assassin in Tokyo. The film itself, the log line, here's Netflix log line. After she's poisoned, a ruthless criminal operative has less than 24 hours to exact revenge on her enemies, and in the process forms an unexpected bond with the daughter of one of her past victims. This was directed by French director Cédric Nicolas Troyan, written by Umer Alim. And interesting, his script was actually a blacklist script. Not blacklist like it's a bad script or should never be produced because he's a communist, but a formal list started by Hollywood script readers about their trading favorite scripts that weren't getting produced. Anyway, it does star Mary Elizabeth Winstead as Kate, Tadanobu Asano as Renji, Miyavi as Jojima, A blink and you'll miss it performance from Michael Huisman. It does introduce Miku Martineau, a Canadian, as Annie, with June Kunimura as Kojima and Woody Harrelson as Varric. As far as the film itself, well, you know what? Why don't we watch a little bit of the trailer? I got that queued up here.
Jesus, Kate, what happened to you?
I missed. I think I was poisoned before the hit. V, who was the target?
The grand honcho of the yakuza.
How much time do I have?
14 hours, maybe 15.
Kate, it's gonna be okay.
You won't get any more questions from me after today.
Who are you?
Kate. That's who she is. Anyway, the movie opens. The movie opens with the eponymous Kate on a job that goes a little sideways, and she starts actually questioning her future as an assassin. Up to that point, I guess it's gone well. We learn she was raised from a young age by Woody Harrelson's character Varric, no less, to be an assassin. Before too long, Kate's on another job, and her tummy starts to act up. Not looking good. Her tummy starts to act up at the exact wrong time. Needless to say, she does not complete the mission, and after a pretty cool yet comically unbelievable chase scene, finds herself in the hospital where she learns she's been poisoned, and as you heard, like hours to live. Of course, she spends the rest of the film trying to find out who killed her and who gave the order, all the while building that aforementioned bond with the daughter of her victim from the beginning of the movie. So that's kind of, there's Kate in a nutshell. As far as the social nutrition checklist goes, could it earn a reframe stamp? No, it could not. Was it union made? Yes, it was. Did it pass the Bechdel test? As a matter of fact, it did. And then last but certainly not least, is there any class consciousness in this operation? I don't know. Catherine, why don't you chime in on that one? What do you think? Is it a class conscious film?
Listen, classes everywhere, but overtly, I would say no. I mean, yeah, it's not Parasite, right?
Yeah,
So.
Yeah. No. This is not it's not even Caddyshack, which Jim and I both agreed. Watch it, Catherine. We was like kind of, oh my God, there's like class analysis in here. It right down to a point where one of the characters, Chevy Chase is saying to the kid, what's wrong with working in a lumber yard? I own 2 of them. Kid responds, I don't see you spending much time at them, sir. And it continues. So that one a check mark from us. Anyway, so that gives the flick a 50% win on that. Which is usually where we land. Rare, 75%, and there's only been 1 or 2 that we thought was 100%, a 100% film, including Coda, which, on top of it being a wonderful film, and made me cry. So, all right, Catherine. With that out of the way, give us your quick review.
I liked it. I thought it was formulaic, but in a good way. So like there's a reason that these are the formulas of the narrative that films tend to follow.
Yep.
There was a few bits where this is not a show I normally would have watched. Like if I went to Netflix and it said, rated R, what did it say? Strong bloody violence and language throughout, I probably wouldn't have picked it.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it was well done. I enjoyed the fight scenes. I enjoyed the car chase. There's just the few bits where you have to suspend disbelief, right? So like her like in the first 5 minutes where she's aiming and her hair is not, she's got like flip bits of her hair in flying, like the wind is blowing it in her eyes. And I'm kind of like, how are you? Like, what? If you're gonna be an assassin, isn't it kind of important to like tie your hair back? I don't know. So then I was just sort of like, okay,
maybe wear a cap.
Yeah, and then are you still in the no spoiler scene?
We are still in the no spoiler zone. Yes.
Okay, so I mean, well, that was in the first 5 minutes, but anyway, yeah, no, I enjoyed it. It was a good romp. Yeah, and it made me think of it was funny because you're about, is there class consciousness, and it made me think of Mario Puzo, I guess, said about the Godfather. It wasn't about the mafia, it was about family. So like, so it had a little bit of that in it too, right? So that
it definitely did, yeah.
Yeah, but I was like, why is this? I don't know. Like, I didn't read up on it beforehand. So I'm sort of like, why is this taking place in Japan? Just sort of, I guess, to maybe but just it was an interesting twist. It like really added to the story and made it more than just a shoot 'em up, bang 'em up kung fu movie. Yeah.
Catherine, that's an interesting point you make there. That if it was her in Chicago as a
with the mafia, like
wouldn't
Tony
have been
Soprano
the same.
is the like yeah.
Yeah.
Or
it would have to be a different movie.
Yeah.
No, that's an excellent point. It makes me think again of Leon the Professional, and almost how they made that different was, well, you got a small child. It really is about her, not the assassin, and everything else that made that different. Okay, for myself, I enjoyed it myself. I thought it was, again, it's a ridiculous premise. It's like, and there's still part of me. It's like, yes, when you want to lay low and just blend in, what do? You pick a tall white woman to wander around the streets of Tokyo in the middle of the night. No one will spot her in Japan.
Yeah.
That said, once you get over that, I said this before in my hot mic review last week. It's got a lot of style and a lot of fun. Like, even though it can be kind of gory at points.
Yeah.
You mentioned the car chase, which is all in the first act, folks. You do see a bit of it in the trailer. It's ridiculous, but I thought there's the director going, you know what, but it'll look cool. I'm okay with that. Let's put something that looks cool in the movie. And even then, I felt for the kid. I felt for her as she's dying. Anything else I'll go on about that will be, when we're in the spoiler zone. It had some pathos. It wasn't, they didn't go for as many cheap laughs as I thought they could. I do, and we'll talk more about it, when we get to the meaning. I was a little more, the Yakuza is almost like part of the backdrop here. Mm-hmm. It's like, the Yakuza, and I got to admit, I'm like almost even, it's like, this is like the other of the other. We're othering squared,
Mm.
And so does it, are we just using this bit of, it's almost become like a shorthand or not a shorthand, just an easy backdrop, so you've got some great character players, great Japanese character players, but I mean, they kind of did their Yakuza bit. You'll be this guy, you'll be that guy, again, we'll, in the spoiler zone, talk about one, I thought, excellent moment. The one thing I think I can say now is, and I'm glad they don't in these movies, like you were talking about that genre expectation, Catherine, but there is a part of me, I would love to see at least once in one of these things where halfway through sending everyone, because that's what they always do. They send everyone until they're all dead. And then the protagonist, bruised, beaten up, bloody, stabbed, whatever, moves on to the next group of, I'd love to see early in one of these things. It's like, oh, we're getting our ass kicked, boss. We should bail. We should fall back. And it's like, oh, you're goddamn right. I'm already calling our boss to say, you sent us to get something we are not prepared for. Look at this video. I'm emailing you the thing on Facebook, whatever. I'd love to see that.
Yeah.
But even that said, it was genre fun. And I did enjoy it, and I'd love to see more of Mary Elizabeth Winstead in this kind of role. It's like she proved herself as I can do action.
Yeah. Like I wouldn't. There were no scenes where you recognized that she was 5'8" and the people were, and you believe that she. Like I believed she was an assassin. Yeah. Totally. I was able to watch the whole thing and believe that she was an assassin. So, I mean, you got to have that, right? So,
absolutely.
Yeah.
No, the one who must delivered. Anyone else could be weak, could be just phoning it in, but she had to deliver for this stab half a shot, and she totally did. She committed. All right. I think that means we are entering the spoiler zone. Wait. The spoiler zone. Now, this, folks, is where we usually start with the craft, kind of, as much for Catherine's edification as anyone who might stumble on this new to our show. We talk about performance, the look, the feel, the sound of the movie. Not so much the story, like plot holes or anything like that, or great plot points, whatever, or theme stuff, although some of these things might kind of hook into that later. So with that out of the way, Catherine, if it's cool with you, I'll go first on this one.
Go for it.
As far as I'm concerned, it had a good look. There was some great, like we already talked about the car chase. Yep. We're in the spoiler zone now. There was a moment where the camera, she's looking outside of this ridiculous car. Why she picked that car? It's like, oh, there's the heat score. I'll pick that one. Even though the bad guys, she could hear that the bad guys think it's a guy they're looking after.
Yeah.
So what does she do? She goes and picks the loudest, the only loud, ridiculous thing. Can't turn off the lights inside, but it does bring that great moment of her looking at the bad guys and the bad guys looking at her, and she's just looking at them. And it was just a great, it's like, I'm on board. That's dumb. Give me more. And I think there was a number of those. You mentioned earlier fight scenes. The fight scene in that club, we see a little bit of it, but only a little bit in the trailer. Thank God for that. That was that fight scene in that club with all the paper walls, all black and white, except for her, just... chef's kiss. I suspect people, fans of the kung fu and karate genres, karate's more a Japanese thing, and the katanas and the knives and everything, they're going to be talking about this for a while. For a lower budget film, that delivered. Her performance is great. That kid, that Mira Martineau. Mira Martineau? What the heck is that? Miku Martineau. What a Canadian name with her Toronto accent. I thought she was like a big surprise for me, like how well like I bought that she was a teen.
Yeah.
Interestingly enough, she
Yeah.
probably shot this when she's 15, 16. She's
Yeah.
only 17 now. But I bought her. I did other than a great scene with the Renji character played by Tadanobu Asano, I did think like that all the Japanese players played their role well, but they were the bad guys didn't have a lot to do character-wise. There wasn't like and so I couldn't say any of them really like, oh wow, that was the performance of a lifetime.
Yeah.
I did think Woody Harrelson's he delivered a solid performance, but you weren't going, geez, Woody, you left it all out on the screen. It was like, no, he's like,
Yeah.
I'm really feeling like sushi tonight. Well, maybe not that, but like I wasn't going, wow, I'm moved. I've seen these moves before.
Yeah. No,
Does that
and
make sense to you?
Yeah, and but also his character was so one-dimensional. There wasn't a lot for him to do with it, right? So,
Well, that absolutely. You know what? How can I? If there was a character that could have done more, it's that character. I don't think and I wonder, is that an issue of performance versus like a performer can bring something to it where you kind of go, wow, there's more going on here. And so because he would have been one of their A catches. It's like, oh, we got Mary Elizabeth Winstead and we got Woody Harrelson. Yeah. And so he would have the pull to go, let's take another look at the script. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Like, yeah, but even as you're talking about it, I'm thinking of the scene where he finds out why she's been poisoned, and this is someone he's trained from. He's trained. He's basically raised her from a young girl, taught her everything she knows. She's like his, he's her life. Yeah. And
a surrogate daughter.
And then he finds out, oh, she's going to die. Yeah. Damn it. Right? So
I'm pissed.
Yeah. So I think you have a point. He could have brought, there's places where he could have definitely brought more into it. Cause you don't even, it's sort of like, it's like someone that you're that close to and you have no, that's your emotional reaction to it. Like, I understand you're a cold-hearted killer.
Could it get a little more?
Kinda, that's a bit.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and and I'm even willing to come closer to where you're coming from there. And we'll get more of that into this when we get into the story part. Another thing I wanted to ask you. I saw a number of movies in here, and some of them are the classics. Again, there's I think I even wrote it down I wrote this shit down somewhere. Yes. Of course, John Wick, right off the top. Leon the Professional, La Femme Nikita. There's even in one scene where somebody dies with a pencil or a pen. Stabbed with a pen. That's right out of Grosse Pointe Blank. John Cusack's, personal effort from 98 something, late 90s.
Back in the day, yeah.
Back in the day.
Our days, our times, yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Yes, when you're still in Winnipeg. But there were points where I was like, they are going for a bit of like Ghost in the Shell and Blade Runner, like in that kind of neon-y night, ads on buildings, that kind of thing, which is almost like a circular reference, as the it exists there, but it's also a cue, almost like a visual cue to a different time. And even some of the music, you had some synthesizer in there. You had other music too. Like it wasn't just mood, but what did you think? Like, or am I just talking out of my ass there?
No, I think,
as you know, Catherine, it wouldn't be the first time.
Yeah. No, I think the backdrop was like it was a significant part of it, and it made it a more interesting show.
Mm-hmm.
And
definitely sets a mood.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else you wanted to add on Craft that that particularly is noteworthy to you, or at times you just went, what the?
No, I thought it was very well done. There was, you talked about the fight in I guess it was the restaurant or the club or whatever, the club,
the Black Lizard Club.
Yeah, the club, where she kills like 12 guys, 15 guys, or whatever. It's like 1 on 12, and she kills them all. And so you have that scene, and then a little bit later you have a scene that's almost the same amount of time, and it's her against the one guy in the kitchen.
Yes.
Right? And so it's sort of like, I'm like, why is it taking you so long to take out this guy when you took out like a dozen of these guys before? Now, I guess like the poison is working.
She's got more holes in her too.
But she's having a rough night.
There was a gunfight or guns, and in between these two fights, there was a gunfight with fisticuffs.
Yeah.
And an irritating teenager.
True. Yes. Yeah. So it was just, it was that. And then like the other thing is the whole premise is all like everything rests on the fact that she's been poisoned. And I actually had to go back and watch this part because I was thinking about it, and I was like, so she's this like super trained assassin, brilliant woman, and basically like she's roofied by this guy, and it was sort of like the hair in the face, right? Why would you, if you're a female assassin, you're going to pull your hair back, or if you're a male assassin or if you're non-binary and you have long hair, you're going to pull it out of your face before you got to shoot somebody.
Or you might even just shave it off, because this is a job where you're like, I want to do this right. I can put a wig on if I want to let my hair down.
Yeah. And then also it's sort of like, if you're like, you've made a lot of enemies because you've been killing people for, a good number of years, pretty much your adult life. Aren't you going to keep an eye out on your drinks, right? Because like regular women watch their drinks. And then I'm like, that's like, so I would think an assassin would be more aware of that, but then I was thinking, and then I was like, did I miss something in it? So I went back and I watched that part. And I'm like, no, basically she got roofied. Yeah.
By some guy in a bar.
By some guy in a bar. It's like a strange guy in a bar wants to buy you a drink. Like, I'm sorry. Like you keep an eye on any little bubbles in there or whatever. Right. Anyway, so and then I thought, oh well, maybe because she was raised as an assassin, Woody Harrelson didn't teach her that you have to always watch your drink, cover your drink, keep your keys between your fingers when you're walking home at night, and like these things that every North American woman knows, right? Like maybe it's because she was raised in Japan. It could be, I don't know, give them the benefit of the doubt. Whatever. Oh, it's another thing. It was just like it was like a brief thing. And I was like, but you got to let it go to let the movie unfold, because without that you have no movie, right? So
the reason I let that one go. You're absolutely right. Like it's worse in a way because she is a woman, where any normal woman would be worried about this very thing happening. The reason I thought it was okay is she is showing signs of burnout. And so she's becoming exhausted of what she's doing. May even, not the first time that people in something like that. Well, okay, not that I know what work stress is like on. Yes,
I can tell you with the Japanese mafia, I can tell you.
But
this is what happens.
Just anyone when they're burning out, and all of a sudden maybe a little self-destructive tendency. I'm not going to worry about it. I am just going to pick up some random guy. I'm not going to care. Mix that also, and I know that sounds contradictory, little overconfidence, but I do think, and that's why I've kind of switched us over to story now. It's a great plot point, and it is a weak plot point. They didn't do anything to show us how he did it, and in Michael Heisman's blink and you'll miss it performance, like, wow, how much money did they spend flying him to Japan to be in 2 scenes? 2!
Yeah.
I'm sure Heisman's fine. He's like, oh, 50 grand in a couple of days. Sure. Sounds good to me.
Yep.
Yeah, but you're absolutely right. They don't do anything to sell us that. It just happens.
Yeah.
But I'm wondering if there was something on the cutting room floor that they're like, this is slowing up, or, it's too obvious, or we'll figure it out on the day. The day comes, it's like, it happened.
Yeah.
Roofie magic.
Yeah.
But no, that's a great point, Catherine. Was there anything else? Like we've already talked about the ridiculous premise. That's an interesting plot point that, it nags at you, and now it's going to nag bigger, I'm sure, in anyone who's seen this. Was there anything else as far as the story goes that really worked for you, that was weak, or...
No, I thought the story was good. I liked that they had it was like a little bit of a moral tale, right? And it was interesting. It was sort of, like these Westerners have brought this to Japan, and the whole concept of family, right? And it's like, can you...
Well, hold on that till we get to the meaning. Because that's all thematic.
Yeah.
More like thinking about I think I'm pretty sure I agree with you. It did add solid 3 acts.
Yeah.
Pace was good. Like, I mean, you always you knew where you were in space and time.
Yeah.
Other than a few quibbles here and there.
Yeah. No, but it was kind of like if you had you had AI create a story, right? Like that was a bit what it felt like, but not in a bad way, in a good way, in that these are the kinds of stories that humans like. There's a reason that there's a formula, because that's what people like to watch, and that's what they followed. And so it was a good romp.
Yeah. Well, and I even think you're talking about how, like, the let's say the structure it followed. It still wasn't. It stuck to, like, as far as the character goes, it stuck to that character dying. Didn't pull out any magic save, which is really nice.
I could have seen that happening for sure, actually.
Oh yeah. She's very sympathetic.
Yeah.
She, even though she's a cold stone killer who shot the kid's father in front of her, because orders are orders.
That was the job.
All right, yeah. It was the gig.
Yeah.
We all serve capital. Paycheck doesn't come if you don't follow through.
Yeah, exactly.
Did you, like, or was it just me? Annie, she seemed almost we don't really know how it's going to play out for her. Sure, Grandpa says, it's really about family, but it's like, what does that mean here? And I like the way, or maybe it was just me. I thought it was the story left it ambiguous on purpose. You don't know how Annie's been saved from the fate of Varric, but does that mean what does that mean actually? What are the implications? What are the character implications? And I thought that was kind of cool. What did you think of it was a storyline that they were selling. Did you buy it? This before we get into the theme of it, but did you buy the Yakuza, her clan, they're also racist, that she's being half white, half Japanese, and that she can't even see her mother or anything. And I'm like, a lot of mixed marriages in Japan. Did you buy that? Or I got to admit that I sort of stumbled over. It was like, I'm not seeing there isn't racism in Japan, but I stumbled over it. What part of it was, I was just like, really? This is what we're doing here? Okay.
Yeah.
What about you? Did you stumble on that at all, or it was fine? It just, if anything, it was a bump that you barely noticed because you got better suspension.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. It was sort of, they were trying to, they wanted to humanize her more and give her more, make her more interesting. So,
yeah. And again, sympathetic.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. Because she was being a pill.
Yeah. She was being a teenager. Yeah. For sure.
Rightly so.
And yeah, absolutely. Right. She was having a rough night too. Right. So, I mean, come on, give the kid a break.
What about, what was your favorite scene?
Oh, I liked I liked the car chase in the beginning.
Yeah. Even the way that ended, which was so cool. She not gets away or not, she's dying and they're going too fast on a city street.
Yeah.
Not taken out or anything.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sorry.
No, I'm just trying to think it was, I like the bits like that were really very, where she's got the, she's all beaten up. And so she has to tape herself up and, it's classic, but they did it. I thought that was well done. And there were a lot of
and they showed
like
us
that were
her getting out.
Yeah. That were classic. You've seen them done before, but it was done well. So it didn't seem like a ripoff to me. Right. It seemed like this is another, this is just another example of this thing. And it may have been done before in other films, but it didn't seem, it was its own, it was its own thing. So
you're absolutely right. The story and the craft is strong enough that even the other films I saw in it never once, Jim once said, be careful when the movie, refers to other movies, because chances are you should just stop the movie and go watch that. This never did that. It doesn't call out. It's certainly taking pieces, like all movies are a mashup of previous movies. It takes those pieces, but it makes it, the movie was always making it its own. It made sense at the time. Even the tight fight, the gun / karate / that fight in the alleyways and the restaurant and everything, another Blade Runner moment, and all these. But there's a bit of Old Boy in that, and there's so many other films in it, but you felt it fit within the film. The scene before it properly set that one up, which set up the next scene. It was properly paid off. And
Yeah.
Were you at all, like, still sticking within story? One of the things I thought about it is, like, it really is, it's a gangster action film, but there is a bit of mystery. Like it is her drive, right?
Yeah.
Why did this happen to me? I referred to Blake Snyder's Save the Cat and it's not a who done it, it's a why done it, because you're really thinking of the motive.
Yeah.
And the bummer is, you see enough of these, you're like, okay, these are the top 3 suspects. Varick's got to be one. It just has to be, because it won't be the first time an assassin was sold out by their own, and then. But what did you think of the way they thread that needle, that why she was killed needle?
I thought they did a good job of it. Like, it was a twist, but it wasn't, like, it was believable, right? Like, you could see it coming, but so when it happened, you believed it. That of course, that makes sense, right?
Yeah,
it wasn't like some random, like,
not a twist that hurts the neck.
Her mother, her father comes into the picture from
alive,
Alaska. It wasn't anything like that. It was within the universe that they had created. It's like, this happened. It's like, of course, right? Like, that makes total sense. So it wasn't. There was never any wild. There were never
no eye roll.
Yeah.
And you're absolutely right. And I like the way they. I like the way they kind of knit. They knit 2 possibilities together, and now going back to Varick's Woody Harrelson's performance, I think that was their opportunity, and whether it be it's in the end, you lay it on the director, but Harrelson has enough pull and was, I'm sure, one of the reasons it got funded at all. So he's got some ability to go, and it's not like he's new to movies. He's got some ability to go, I'm going to do this with this because I think that'd be really cool. And so I think there are opportunities there where either he's totally cold. It's like, you did that. But you could see they were trying at least to bring some tension there. And as far as story goes, might be the weakest part of it. Was just, that didn't feel as well resolved as it could be. But you're right. You saw it. You knew something was coming. You kind of knew what it looked like. And that they did it that way was pretty good. Yeah. You didn't feel robbed. Again, no eye rolls. I don't know. Is there anything else we can really say on story? Otherwise than, like a well-paced under 2 hours.
Yep.
All right then. I think it's time then. Let's oh my goodness. We got another player in the mix here. Until everyone's off the usual time frame. Usually we're at 9:30, and now of course this is where DMG. Let's give a shout out to our good friend Dragon Movie Guy. Ahoy, sir. DMG, we've actually been going for an hour already. We're on Eastern time. We're accommodating my good friend Catharine from who's in Ottawa, where it's already 10:30, right? Yeah. It's getting late. It's work night. But it's yes, we did, sir. But so good to see you here, man. All right, let's talk about the meaning. Let's get into the meaning of the piece. You start us off, Catharine. First thing you meant family. Yeah, that comes up quite a bit.
A little bit, yeah. I think I don't know. No, it was mostly about killing people and getting revenge, right? More so than family. It was sort of just a like an aside, right? So it's like as an aside, Westerners have brought this, this rotten stuff, and it's not like truly family is the most important thing, and family has to stick together, right? So
well, and this is one of the things I really enjoyed. There was a scene with Renji and Kojima where this is where I think family actually fits in this film. Renji and Kojima, and notwithstanding Renji's gotta die, he's the only one who's like kind of saying, you're just a thug. You're not a samurai. You're just a thug. I'm the better thug. I'll run this business better. And I loved that. I loved that they managed to make Renji enough of a bastard. Well, he's willing to kill a child, so, enough of a bastard that I can agree with him wholeheartedly while still saying, yeah, no, he should die.
Take him out.
Take him out. And I would argue, this is the thing, like, for as much as they talk about family, it's like, well, this is a terrible family. These are all terrible families.
No,
that
but
we
the
somehow
point,
give. That we somehow give. Oh yeah, go ahead.
No, the point was you can't. Woody Harrelson is not really her family because he's not blood, right? And so you have this idea that in the meantime, this other family, like, this guy killed his brother, et cetera, et cetera. And you find out, no, it was actually Renji, because when you're blood, that matters. And when you're not, it's not as important. So it's sort of, like, really, come on. Anyway, it's an interesting idea. It's totally not true. Like,
well, and that's what I think. I think there might have been a subtle commentary.
That was the point. Was blood is thicker than water, which of course it's not in real life. But they were making a point. So
well, I think
blood is thicker than water.
No, okay, first of all, let's talk about blood is thicker than water. The blood of battle is thicker than the water of the womb. That is the original etymology of the saying, which is saying, brothers in arms are more family than like family, because, that is not as strong a bond. Definitely a warrior ethos kind of thing there. But I think Let's talk about the only blood relationship that exists in the movie is Kojima and Annie, grandfather and granddaughter, and it's like, if you were such a family guy, buddy, maybe you would have brought her closer before all this shit went down. But I do think. And let me talk out of the other side of my mouth, Catherine. I do think there is something to be said about that it is calling bullshit on this whole idea of, well, we're a clan and clan loyalty and, this idea of a warrior or honor amongst thieves, which is like, it's all kind of horseshit. Again, going back to why I love the Renji thing, where you're just a thug. Yeah. I could run this operation better. Varric, in the end, no matter what, kind of going, well, but I made a deal. The deal is good money here, and well, she's dying anyway, so what do I care? Yeah. So if it is saying anything, maybe not so much about the blood bond as much as no matter what these guys talk about, what's driving them is their own profit. The Western comment, it's kind of like we look at this Yakuza stuff like they are samurais, which I suspect all started when the and I want to say it was either, what was it, 78, 79, Shogun the miniseries, based on James Clavell's Shogun. And then you move into the late 70s, the early 80s, when all of a sudden Japan becomes this big threat to American economic hegemony. It's no longer Datsuns made out of old Coke cans, but memory chips and all this stuff. So all of a sudden, the North American culture becomes obsessed with what's Japan and this mysterious East. So I think our fascination with the yakuza is as much a fascination with a kind of this samurai warrior ethic, this fantasy we've built around them. Yeah, honestly, going back to Richard Chamberlain's star-making turn as Anji-san in Shogun, the miniseries. James Clavell, and who was the director? I can't remember.
No idea.
Somebody. Anyway, I do remember seeing it as a small child. I thought it was great. It was very, and I do think that if there's Nicola Troyan is not trying to make a big statement with this movie. He's, back the aforementioned romp. Yeah. There was a lot of fun here.
Yeah.
But I do think there's something to be said, a little bit of calling bullshit on some of this stuff. Maybe?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, and that's probably also why, like, the whole, going back to the Varric character, and of all the characters, he was probably the least believable. And as we're talking about it, I'm thinking about it more. And it's like, why? Like, if you're talking about, the blood of battle, here's someone who they've been through the blood of battle for years together.
Yeah.
She's poisoned. She's going to die. And he's like, you shouldn't have done that, Renji.
There's always tomorrow. Well, it's very, I don't know if
why'd you do that? I could have taken care of it.
I would have.
What?
Exactly. Part of his line was, I was going to bring her back. I was going to convince her to, stay on the team.
Yeah. But it's like someone spilt his milk or something, right? Like not murdered the person
that he raised from a small child.
Yeah, and taught everything to his protege, right?
Mm-hmm.
That was weird.
Yeah, his protege, his only successor, really.
That we saw, right? Because that was the other thing. Like, what else was going on with this guy? What was he doing in Japan? What was she doing in Japan?
Well, again, what is the tall white woman assassin doing in Japan?
Yeah, like why are you there anyway, right? Like, maybe I don't know. Maybe they had some elaborate backstory. He must have had some reason.
They usually did.
He was there.
Yeah,
right?
they usually.
We just never heard anything about it. So
well, and this is maybe okay. I'm jumping a bit back into story, but I think another plot weakness, storytelling weakness is. I mean, at the beginning, I was like, what do you mean criminal operative? They look like I thought at the beginning that they were part of, because it's the head of the snake and all this stuff. It's like that they're actually part of a government, a shady
CIA
governmental organization, like a SHIELD-esque operation that is, writes its own rules, but it's government funded, because it's like, otherwise, what the hell,
Yeah.
Here's an interesting point coming from DMG. It's referring to Kurosawa. Akira Kurosawa was heavily influenced by John Ford Westerns. Absolutely. Mm-hmm. You watch The Fortress, and it's like, this is a Western. It's like I've seen, right, the horse, all the horse action and everything. Anyway, so all of these Shogun-style Western crime influence films are inspired by each other. It's not as uniquely foreign as we think, LOL. I'm going to agree and disagree with you, DMG. I'm more talking about the fascination with the Yakuza like even Kurosawa at his heyday was not watched by many people in North America. You know, he is known amongst us. But could you, hey, Kurosawa, I've heard that name. Is that new anime thing?
Yeah.
But I think there was a thing that happened in the late 70s and early 80s that all of a sudden the Yakuza, I'm thinking Black Rain, Rising Sun with Sean Connery and Wesley Snipes, a I don't have to pay taxes, Wesley Snipes, but also a Dolomite Wesley Snipes. And he was genius in that. Have you seen Dolomite yet?
No,
Catherine?
I'll have to watch it.
You need to watch that fucking movie.
Making a note.
But thanks for commenting on that. Thank you very much, DMG. Where were we? Can't remember. Who the heck knows? Anything else thematically you want to talk about? Do you? Oh no, I want to come back to the family thing. What about the connection? Because there's this connection between Annie and Kate that kind of, in a way,
and you get that great scene where she takes the selfie of them
just awesome.
Yeah,
but
so
good. there's this there is. I bought the bond. I bought that completely. I bought the way.
Absolutely.
I bought her Annie's hero worship.
Yeah.
You know, which seems to be speaking. Like how many women I've known who's like, fuck, I love Atomic Blonde. Like just this, the idea of the woman badass still gets hurt. Like the Atomic Blonde, there's a number of relatively recent performances that are like the competent woman, similar to, the competent man, which we got, too many to count. But now there's like a growing thing. And I think Annie seemed to speak to that. Like that, just that you don't have to put up with guy shit, and fuck, she delivered there. But now, was that just something like, is that part of is that a purposeful part of the theme of the movie? Or was that, no, we got to make the character realistic, and therefore these are the words we're going to give her? Or even just part of it just happening on set too. Like,
I don't know. I think it's another one of those to show that, Kate may be this cold, hard assassin, but still when confronted with a young girl in trouble, she can do the right thing and open her heart, that kind of.
I don't know. Like, early, as she's like between, so there's an early scene. There's the first assassination where she kills the young girl's father.
Yep.
Blood all over her, which becomes a thing, a motif, not necessarily a theme, but a motif, certainly a visual motif.
Yeah.
But later on, or basically the second or third scene after that, she's running through Tokyo and she sees a young family. And I think that's the moment we're supposed to be thinking. She's starting to think about, hey, I could have a life that involves children.
Yeah.
And so a part of me was more like, that was just great character development. I'm not going to have kids, but I can help this kid. That's not happening for me now. The polonium's going to get me.
Yeah.
like I'm a Russian dissident, in London,
Yeah. Yeah. And also like the redemption story, right? Like she took out the dad and against what she wanted to do. 'Cause like, no, our rule is no kids.
Yeah.
What's like
another great eye roll
really?
moment.
Yeah, it's like really. Yeah, we like kill people in cold blood unless a kid can see it happen. Like what? Yeah, it's like okay, roll with it.
Well, that they
Yeah,
even have
so
like a code phrase for it and everything, and then it's like, keep going. It's like, well,
yeah,
but no, this is the moment I
yeah.
check out, or
So
this is
I
the
don't know.
moment a good worker would be like, oh, sorry, I already packed up. Damn radio. Like, I already, that was the rule. Like you fall on policy, you work to rule. You're like,
Yeah,
this is what I
yeah.
like to see. It's like, I'm 3
Right.
blocks away. The window, there
Where's
is no
my
window. There is a kid.
where's my health and safety forms? Yeah. Yeah, I don't have to put in a grievance, but
Yeah.
no, it's
But back to like, I didn't, when I say eye roll more as we're looking at it, not while I was watching it.
no.
As soon as you hear it, you're like, know what's going to happen and you know it has to happen. This is one of those things that's going to drive the plot. We've all seen the trailer. We're like, well, if she didn't, we wouldn't have a movie. So that guy's dying and we'll see the kid later.
Yeah.
But where was I going with that? Oh, back to family and future. Do you think, like, again, I love the choice they made to kill her, to kill Kate, that Kate is really dying.
Yeah.
Do you think, though, that, like, for me, I'm like, this is actually tragic, notwithstanding the fact that she has murdered people. She is a child soldier. We've seen a couple other flicks of late. Now they'll come to me, but I'm like, there's something about and when I mean tragic, I mean in a Greek sense of, yes, she's done wrong, but the punishment outweighs the crime because any criminal act, like, you get a child soldier, you kind of go, well, you're a kid. That's just plain child abuse. We're going to get you therapy. And we're not going to fucking throw you in jail or, well, perhaps in the United States and even parts of Canada. But like, I mean, in a just world, you go, this is, something has to be done. You can't just, off you go. Bygones be bygones. It's all spilled milk. There's something must happen. But it seemed to me that there's a tragedy to her because she is redeemed, but it's like, the punishment outweighs the crime, notwithstanding that, she is an instrument of death because she is an instrument, not the, we saw her.
Yeah.
Literally covered in blood.
Yeah.
Again, a motif, covered in the blood of her parents' murder and saying, you know what, let's fuck you up. Right?
Yeah.
Or am I reading too much Greek into this? You're the theater geek. Jesus, Catherine.
I don't know, man. Yeah, no.
No, go ahead.
No, I think I think you have a point, and I think it's also, but it's also like, I'm not sure. There's a lot that we can read into it, and whether they actually meant for that. It just sort of happened to be that way. Okay, we're gonna have a kid. We're gonna throw in the kid. This is gonna happen, and then we'll do this and do that. Not necessarily to like, oh, we need something to symbolize her humanity and her connection with her child self, and like we can pontificate for a while. It's not necessarily what they.
I think here, and yes, DMG, Dragon Movie Guy, I do see your comment. We will get to that in a second. I'm not so much worried. Like, it could be unintended, but it's still part of the the meaning of the film. Like,
Yeah.
I'm thinking about what you'd said earlier, Catherine, about there is a reason we like stuff like this. There is a reason why if she lived at the end, if there was some Hail Mary, we'd feel ripped off. She had to die. And part of the poignancy of their death is it sucks. We realize by the end of it, she is as a victim of this operation as Annie was about to be. And that what redeems her life is the last act is to save Annie from potentially becoming another Kate. But that in a way makes it even more poignant, more Greek tragic, that it's like, yeah, she even wanted out. Like, I mean, she was, there is something, whether it was intended by the creators or just instinctively. And the Frenchman who directed this, the writer who wrote it, better educated than I am. I'm sure they weren't like I was unaware of Greek tragedy. And it's who is this Aristotle?
Because it's sort of like, is it going to be a tragedy or are we going to go Hollywood, right? Because if it had been if it had been like Big H Hollywood, then for sure they would have found a cure, right? Yeah. So I think for sure.
But even if they did, it would have to have been a different movie. Other things would have had to have happened. I think by the middle of it, it's like, no, we only have, actually not even, by the end of the first act, you're like, we only have one end game. How we get there, how it plays out in the third act is still part of the mystery of the movie, but she should die. They did not give us enough. Like, it would have been a bad movie. Not saying that Hollywood couldn't have generated. It would have been we would have been talking about a shitty movie. A
shitty ending.
A shitty ending.
Yeah, it would have been the eye roll. It was good, and then at the end, you're just like, really? Come on. Yeah.
Unlike The Mist, which was an awful ending that ruled. Still needed to see another movie after that. Okay. DMG says, partly just taking the piss, Rob, you're a union guy. Note the capitalization on union and guy. Do you think Navot Papashado, who I believe is one of the producers on this one and on Gunpowder Milkshake, was paid twice for this script? As I said before, the screenwriter of this, it was Umar Alim. But I know where you're going, and I get it. Or is changing the name Kate enough to get a new screenwriting credit? I do, and I refer to that. There's like three interesting streaming films that came out. I have not seen the feature with Maggie Q yet, Protégé. And I might have made fun of it in a previous video without having seen it. I'm just saying, who the hell asked for this? But if you look at Bolt, Gunpowder Milkshake, and this, Kate, they're all kind of, they're in a similar class, let's say. There's a lot of overlap. That said, yeah, they are all three different movies. It's because they share so much genre. There's so much genre overlap. I can see why someone might say, oh, it's just this with a few tweaks. But I do, like, not just in style. Like, did you see Gunpowder Milkshake, Catherine?
No. Apparently now I don't have to because I've already seen it.
I would argue you haven't. Although, like, some of it is, you got a woman assassin who is raised by some kind of organized criminal syndicate, represented by Paul Giamatti, who ends up getting saddled with a child, victim of a victim of a child of a victim of hers on a mission.
Yeah.
So yeah, that many elements of the premise are the same, but yeah, that's not enough to say they're the same movie any stretch. They that does have a happier ending. But you can see it was going in the direction. First of all, she wasn't poisoned. They didn't have that plot device. They are different movies. Even style, like Gunpowder Milkshake is, you see some of these movies, they're like, what is that? Streets of Fire? Do you remember that it was Diane Lane and Willem Dafoe before they were anyone, very stylized. I think there's even some rock musical aspect to it.
Yeah.
Great soundtrack.
Okay.
But it exists in a world that kind of looks like ours, but doesn't really exist. It's a stylized world. It's not like John Wick where there's the real world and then there's this stylized underworld. This is like the whole world's kind of like, yeah, that's not the real world, and that's on purpose, which is fine,
Yeah.
So anyway, I get the gag, DMG. But yeah, I would say that they are different enough, although they're coming. And interestingly enough, you see it. But yeah, I'm sure Netflix is like, listen, we need some strong women characters. We need this. And producers being producers say, I could give it all to you.
Yeah.
Can I give it to you 5 times? And they're like, you bet. Let's book
Absolutely.
it. Let's make this happen. Of course, Kate should die until the sequel.
Yes.
Wouldn't be the first time they figured out a way to pull her back from.
Oh, but that's her twin.
Or is Annie the sequel?
Yay.
Yeah. Yeah, 18 and starting to kill.
Yeah.
Or brought in to kill
Revenge.
because the mother or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, there is some ground for sequel without
Absolutely.
recreating Mary Elizabeth Winstead's character. I do want to see her in something, though. I want to see her in more action movies. I thought, she was great in this.
She was good. Very solid. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. What about and actually, okay, before we get into more general areas and start to wrap this up, first of all, I think it is important to bear with me here. Beg you all for a like. If you haven't already, please subscribe. And last but not least, ringy-ding that bell. Sorry, Catherine, I should have let you know earlier.
What is the bell?
Bell for notifications. So that YouTube notifies you when... Yeah, it's a whole ecosystem.
Oh, wow.
See, there's this thing, Catherine, called the internet.
I did subscribe to you, Rob.
Thank you very much. Oh, you are my 168. Yay! Thank you very much, Catherine. And as a matter of fact, you know what? I'm glad you mentioned that.
I said a while ago. I subscribed at least 2 or 3 weeks ago.
Oh, well, thank you very much. You fall within this anyway.
Person has fallen for your bullshit. Who's this guy? What the hell?
A great smart remark. Yet another great smart remark from Rob Christensen. The people who love it, much like yourself, really love it. It doesn't sell to everyone, but the people it does sell to buy it.
An acquired taste. Yeah.
Thank you. I do. This is actually a great opportunity. Just want to talk about some of the recent subscribers, including Florentina Faconti Reviews. Thank you very much, Florentina, for subscribing to my channel. I've certainly checked out yours. It's pretty goddamn cool. Arjun Sridhar, thank you very much for subscribing. And Mr. Saxokeet. Thanks, brother. And you, Catherine Johansson, thank you very much for subscribing to my channel. And of course, expect to, and thanks for coming on. Before we get into more of talking about this movie, talking about the director, getting into some of her final thoughts, I think it's also time to mention. Oh, look at this. Well, first, let's. Okay, Annie is a female revenge flick. It's a Hard Knock Life musical number, takes on a whole new meaning. That's a good one. Thank you very much, sir. And then, Catherine calling out Rob. LOL, bring her back. Yeah, we'll see if she'll come back, but yes, if perhaps at least when we do respect. But if she's willing to come back, she's certainly welcome back.
That's right. There's a lady in this one. Okay.
No. No.
Okay.
Although that said, you may call bullshit on this after I make the announcement for next week's movie. Folks, I do want to talk about next week's movie. Now, this isn't 100%. It's kind of bounced around in our schedule for a number of ridiculous reasons. Nothing to do with the individual I'll be referring to shortly. But next week, we're going to be looking at part 2 of Bahubali. You all remember when we looked at part 1 back in July. We're finally going to do the deep dive on Bahubali 2. That'll be next week with any luck. I'm still waiting for confirmation from our man in Chennai, Shashank Vachari, who hopefully will collaborate with us again, come on the show as we look at this awesome, not Bollywood, but Tollywood epic, part 2 of the Tollywood epic, the epic tale of Bahubali. Which, Catherine, if you haven't seen it, I cannot recommend that film enough. It's kind of nuts, and it's on Netflix. What you want to do? And this is to everyone, folks. Let's bring that back up. Netflix has multiple 3 versions on it. And the first time I saw the Hindi dubbed one, but I strongly, with English subtitles, but I strongly recommend you watch the Telugu one because it is actually, it's actually, the actors are speaking in Telugu, and so strongly recommend you watch that one because then you're hearing Bahubali, that handsome bastard and his glorious mane of hair, Mr. Sridhar, deliver those lines as only he can. So I recommend that. But if you accidentally or on purpose click on the Hindi dubbed one, it's still wonderful. Like it's just everything that Bollywood, Tollywood et al. Can throw at a movie, they're throwing at this one. That in the kitchen sink. As Chennai, as our man in Chennai, Shashank, has said, it's a cabaret. It's got to please the whole family because the whole family's going to see it. You'll get gore. You'll get songs and dance. You'll get it all. Apparently, Indian families do not go, oh, this isn't right for the kids. They go, make sure there's something for my kids because they're coming with, and my mother. And my mother-in-law. So we better all be entertained. Which I think is, Catherine, isn't that like kind of in a way like such an awesome ethic for a film?
Absolutely.
It also explains why they can be like 3 hours long.
Yeah, you got to pack a lot of stuff in there.
And they do. Okay. Let's first of all, the director. Are we gonna? Is he a pass or a fail?
Oh, binary choice. I go pass.
Yes, it is binary choice. You can give some shade to it, like shade. I mean shading, nuance. But in the end, is it a pass or a fail? You know,
No, I say pass for sure.
Yeah. I agree. I think he does show his visual effects roots. I'd mentioned it on my hot mic thing. He does. That's his experience before he got into directing, was as a visual effects artist and then a visual effects supervisor, like on, was it Snow White and the Huntsman, before he directed the Snow White or not Snow White, the Huntsman and the Winter Warrior, I don't know. I'm mushing a whole bunch of big budget names. There's Captain America and Snow White and a witch.
Yeah.
But it wasn't Kate Wilson's sister. All right. What final thoughts? What else do you want to add?
It was a good show. It was a good show.
It really was, wasn't it? It's fun, light without being like no substance. Like it wasn't just empty calories.
Yeah. Like the worst thing about Netflix, actually, I resubscribed to Netflix just to watch this show. This is my commitment to your show, Rob.
Well, thank you very much, Catherine.
Well, I was thinking about it anyway, because I had been unsubscribed for long enough that some stuff was, I think you
got a bit of a playlist
now. In January. Yeah, maybe December. I watched like the last Crown that came out, and then I'm like, I'm done with these people. So I resubscribed, and that was one of the things that bugged me about Netflix is you could spend as much time like searching for something to watch as actually watching anything.
Yeah.
So if you're searching for something to watch, it's like, yeah, sure. What, an hour 40, however long it was. Yeah, no, it's a good, it's a good distraction. Yeah. Well put together.
Went by quick, like without it being, I still remember what it's about. I will say this. I think it won't necessarily be something that anyone rewatches a lot. Like I watched it twice over the last week, in part because I had screener access. And I got to admit, the second time around, it did not thrill me as much. Whereas there's some films where you're like, oh, I could do this again. Well, skip this part because, I got it. I got it. Set up. I'm set up. Let's get to the fun. This one, I don't think it'll be one of those films, but I don't think it's a film that a year from now I'll see it in the queue or I'll see it somewhere or somebody refer to it and I won't remember what it's about. It'll stick. There's a couple of those scenes that'll stick with me for a long, long time. The fight in the club. We talked about the car chase. And again, her look. Just that. That was just such a cool look. Such a great slow-mo shot.
Yeah.
Here's an excellent comment from DMG. And yes, I can't believe I didn't bring it up myself already. DMG says, $25 million budget. Better visuals than the all-time streaming classic, The Old Guard. Oh, The Old Guard. Where I still say Netflix is owed 50 of its $70 to $80 million budget. It's owed 50 million back because it certainly didn't go on the screen. And this comes down to, would you agree with me, Catherine? Like I'm not too, last weekend we talked about Patty Jenkins' hot take regarding fake movies, that streaming movies look fake. And, I know you might be thinking, what? Well, it's not a formula to set up a movie for legendary greatness. That's a quote. Yeah, exactly. She said it. We, of course, had some fun at her expense, including Jim going, what, as opposed to Wonder Woman 1984?
Weird. Okay.
But I would argue, like, and that was one of my beefs about The Old Guard, starring, and I was kind of caught because there's Charlize Theron has produced it. It's coming out of her production company. So there's a part of me kind of going, bet you most of that 50 million went to her. It certainly didn't go on the screen. I know she's in the movie, but I'm sure most
gotta capitalize. That's
Well, part of me was I don't resent Charlize Theron getting paid. Like, there's a part of me kind of going, well, at least it's going to the person doing the work. Well, an outrageous amount from someone.
Work.
yeah. Let's put some air quotes on that. No, but
the brain and the muscle.
The brain and the muscle.
Yeah.
She would not only produced it, she starred in it, she developed it.
Oh, yeah.
I'm willing, like, and given the gross amounts that other people make that aren't even, and the shit a woman actor, and she is, she's in her late 40s, coming up on 50. She's aging out. Now, of course, that idea is changing. It's getting longer in that, but yeah, her prime time is going. And so there was a part of me kind of going, I don't want to resent this woman for kind of, no, I got to cash in. Listen, I only have $500 million and I want to get to my billion. like I struggle with it, right? But what I can say as a viewer and as somebody's financing this effort through my fees, through my monthly charge, I'm like, yeah, I didn't get the 80 million's worth of entertainment. I got, and this movie shows that you fucking can. You can make a great, feature, level movie on a small budget, relatively speaking, which is Atomic Blonde was 20 million bucks. John Wick was 30 million. This is all within the last 5 or 6 years. So it's not like inflation is, and they all look great, so that's thanks for bringing that up. Thanks for letting me revisit my rant about The Old Guard, while at the same time cutting is, I think I even said it in that show, Catherine. I'm like, I'll cut her an iota, 1 iota of slack.
It's not her fault that she's a good negotiator.
Well, there's a part of me is Netflix saying we're not buying necessarily a quality film. We are buying Charlize Theron, and we'll have Charlize Theron leading X number of productions. So, it's kind of like I don't necessarily resent when hockey players negotiate what they get. There's obviously enough money, and fuck, should the Chipmans get it? Fuck no.
Yeah, exactly.
And we've got a shout out from DMG because he's of course doing the digital TIFF tour, saying good Canadian vampire flick called Kicking Blood. Worth a watch. Thanks very much. We'll put that on the list. Yet another movie on the list. All right. Catherine, anything else you wanted to add before we wrap it up and kick in the outro?
No, I think we covered it, Rob.
I think we did too. It's one of those, it's light enough. It was good enough.
Yeah.
It checked a lot of boxes without being so interesting or so awful that we could go hours on how terrible it was. All right. Well, with that in mind, Catherine, I'm going to ask you to stick around. First of all, I do want to take this opportunity to everyone to thank you all very, very much for joining us tonight. Really appreciate it. Really appreciate you coming in early, giving Catherine such a lovely welcome. First of all, of course, let's talk about Brian, DMG, Dragon Movie Guy. Thanks very much for coming around. Thanks for chiming in as you always do, sir. Always bringing your A game to the chat. Sean from Lost in the Reel, thank you very much for dropping by. I can't wait. I have avoided everyone else's take, in part because I'm just trying to get to, I did my hot mic review last week. Now we had this conversation. Now I can catch up on everyone else in the scene's view of this. Richard L., thank you very much for coming in. Please pass on our compliments to Ms. Katie Fowler. And note that until now, I did not want Katie, Catherine, Cat. Is there a connection? Until now. All right. I think that's about it. Catherine, stick around, hang out in the green room for a bit after I roll the credits.
Sure.
Excellent. All right there. I will send you off first, and then for everyone else, again, thank you all very, very much for joining us tonight. Really do appreciate it. Remember, next week, the tweet will come out. We still got to confirm some things, but next week will be Sunday morning because, of course, Shashank, he's 10 and a half hours ahead of us here in Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada. So we'll be doing it. It'll be a Sunday brunch thing, like 9 or 10 a.m., maybe 10. Maybe 10:30 CDT. We still got to work that out, but all the more important to subscribe and press that link. Of course, you can follow me on Twitter at Rob Christensen, and because I always put out my notifications there as well. Okay, with that done, let's change my background. No, I don't want to do that. And let's cue the outro. Later, guys.